I don't think we're there yet. Folks, excuse me. Now, we are in a major transition shift. First off, what do we have in class Thursday? Test. You will get pre-test tomorrow and Wednesday. Then you get your test Thursday. When you return, we have a little bit, like 3 days worth of material learning about volume and surface area, things like that. And then we shift into review. Honestly, for the most part, for most of the rest of the year, that's what we're going to do. We are going to review for your test, the state test, and that's April 13th through 15th. And then after that, there's nothing new to cover in the course, but there are a handful of topics that we cover to help prepare you for next year, and we mix in review for the rest of the year. Now, it's funny because one of the things that kids say to me all the time is, how come we have homework on weekends? Well, once we get to the state test, you'll never have homework on weekends again. You will have tests on Fridays, not long tests, but you'll have tests Fridays. And there'll be no homework because there'll be no new lesson. Thursdays will be pre-tests, and then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we'll be doing sessions of review, and the pre-test will serve as review as well. And during those review sessions, we'll mix in these kind of questions that will help prepare you for next year when you take algebra at the high school, okay? So, without any further ado, let's get started on these questions and doing a little bit more about bivariate data, which we spoke of the other day. First question, which of the following is a function? Which of those is a function? A, very good. How did you know A was a function? All right, the x values do not repeat themselves. Also the vertical line test, right? If we draw a vertical line through A, any vertical line that we draw will always touch the graph only once, so it is a function. If I draw and touch twice, it is not a function. Now, the reason it's not a function is like this point here might be the point -1, -3, and this could be the point 1, 3. And do you see, I'm sorry, 1, -3. Do you see how the 1 has two different outputs, 3 and -3? That's why it is not a function. So if I list it as ordered pairs, do you see how 5 has two different outputs here? One is 8 and one is 11. So therefore, it would fail the vertical line test. So C is not a function either. Okay. The next one asks for the distance between 2 points, 1, 0 and 3, 4. So here's the point 1, 0, and here's 3, 4. 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. It wants to know how long that line segment is. Make sure you guys are paying attention here, looking. We've done a lot of these kind of questions. There's usually one on every homework, and we had a handful of them on our do-its. What we do is we drop a perpendicular down and over, and we create a right triangle. As soon as I see a right triangle, I draw an arrow to this piece. What's the rule you know always works in a right triangle?
Those sides, legs.
Legs. What about legs? Keep going. Legs squared plus what? Legs squared equals what? What do we call this rule? Starts with a P, guys. Pythagorean theorem. Very good. So this side has a length of 2. Just count it. 1, 2. This side has 4. Just count it. So 2 squared plus 4 squared equals the hypotenuse squared. 4 plus 16 is hypotenuse squared. So 20 is hypotenuse squared, and then we square root both sides, and I get that h is the square root of 20. Now, the last question I need to ask you, and I believe, having graded a lot of papers, that you can do that. But the next question I have to ask you is this. That's square root of 20, Denise, head in the game. That's square root of 20. Is that a rational number, or is that an irrational number?
Irrational.
How do you know it's irrational?
Because it doesn't fit the description of the 2 legs that she put in.
No, that's not why. Why is it irrational? What's the world's most famous irrational number?
4. 0.
Nope.
-1.
Pi.
Oh, yeah.
I love pie.
Pi, me too. I had some blueberry last night. Nice. Chocolate pudding pie too. So pi is the world's most famous irrational number. It does not exactly equal 3.14. it actually equals 3.141592, I think 36, and it just keeps going forever and ever and ever. I have a book in the back with the first 10,000 decimal places, or 100,000, I forget which one, of pi.
Why do you have that?
It will never, it's actually a book called The History of Pi, and how civilizations, as they've learned more and more mathematics, have prospered, and other civilizations, as their mathematics has petered out and they never understood certain concepts, they were overrun. Really good examples are the Mayas, the Aztecs, and the Incas. Their mathematics got to the point where it didn't compare to the mathematics of the European forces and so on, so their technology never got good enough to do certain things. So pi is an irrational number. It has to do with circular geometry. It's the most famous irrational number in the world. There's another one called E that you guys don't deal with, but you'll get to it when you're a little older. But the other kind are numbers like the square root of 20, or the square root of 5, or the square root of 3, or the square root of 101. Because any number that you cannot find the square root of, a perfect root, that would be an irrational number. If you hit the square root of 3 in your calculator, it'll tell you 1.7131 something or other. It goes on forever and ever. I don't remember the exact decimals, but it never stops, just like pi. Any square root you can't figure out never stops. The square root of 2 is 1.414 ... It goes on forever and ever. So any square root you can't figure out is irrational. A rational number would be something like the square root of 25. What is the square root of 25? 5. So any number that can be written as a fraction, and 5 can be written as 5 over 1, is always a rational number. Okay. Next, which mapping represents a dilation? What does a dilation, Sam, head the game. What does a dilation always do? Yes, and what operation? Add, subtract, multiply, divide. Good. Which one of those choices shows multiplication? Go ahead.
C.
C. So the correct answer is C. Next. Oh! 3 angles of a triangle are n, 2n, n plus 20, and 3n. Is it acute, right, or obtuse? How do you solve a problem like this? God bless. Folks, how do you solve a problem like this? What do the 3 angles of a triangle always, always, always add up to?
180.
180. So, I'm going to do my first angle, which is n, plus my second angle, what's that? N plus 20, plus my third angle, which is 3n, and I add it all up, and I have to get 180 degrees. How many n's do I have there? 5 n's, good. Plus 20 equals 180, minus 20, 5n is 160, divide by 5, n is 32. But that still doesn't answer the question, God bless, because it says, is it right, acute, or obtuse? So I have to plug in the 32. Here's 32. What's 32 plus 20? 52. And then what's 3 times 32? That's 96. What kind of triangle is it? Is it acute, right, or obtuse? Acute, right, or obtuse? Obtuse, because 1 is greater than 90. Good. Quantitative or qualitative? A person's arm length. Quantitative. What does quantitative mean? Right, it's an amount, it's a quantity. What, quantitative or qualitative? A person's favorite type of music? Qualitative. It's a quality of the music. All right. The next concept to understand is that of univariate versus bivariate. Now, these prefixes means the part in front, or prefix means the part in front. What's the difference in meaning between uni and bi? Go ahead.
Bi means 2, uni means 1.
That's right. Uni means 1, bi means 2. For example, the word union. It begins with uni. A union is when you take everything and you make it into 1. Bi means 2. We won't need to discuss that. Now,
No, we don't.
no, we don't. We don't need to go anywhere near there.
I don't know
Okay.
what that means.
Okay, there's a bicycle. How many wheels does a bicycle have?
5.
2. Very good. Okay, so now we got a brook trout. Okay. Excuse me. Excuse me. We have a table here, and the table takes some brook trout, a total of 10 of them, and it takes the length and the width, the weight and it marks them down. If it's 10 inches long, it's 7 ounces, 13 inches, 17 ounces, 16 inches, 31 ounces, and so on.
Ooh.
Is this a univariate or bivariate? How do you know it's bivariate? It has two groupings, that's right, length and width.
I guess.
Very good, all right. Now, the next thing here talks about, a scatter plot. Stop. Just stop. Scatter plot works like this. On one of them, you'll put either variable, length and width, and I'll go like maybe 4 inches, 8 inches, 12 inches, 16 inches, 20 inches, 24 inches, and then the weight would be 4 ounces, 8 ounces, 12 ounces, 16 ounces, 20 ounces, 24, 28. Now just mark the points. 10 inches, 7 ounces. 13 inches, and 31 ounces. No, 17. 16 inches, 31 ounces. That's up here. 21 inches, 68 ounces. That's all the way up here. 17 inches, 37 ounces. That'd be about here. And last but not least is 16 inches, 20 inches, I'm sorry, 59 ounces. 20 inches, 59 would be right about here. Now, that's a scatter plot. All it means is you mark the points. What's a scatter plot mean? Mark the points, that's it. Now, through the scatter plot, we can put what we call a line of best fit. And all that means is a line that kind of goes through the middle of it. And that is the last thing we have to know for today. The line of best fit goes through the middle of the dots. Okay? We will talk more about this when we get a full period tomorrow. Hasta la vista. Bye con Dios. Toodaloo. Tata. Arrivederci. Smile a lot. Ciao. Arrivederci. Adios amigos y amigas. Cheerio. Toodaloo. Tata. Galusharus. Kutafes. Shalom. Sayonara.